So,
I have a brother who's 10 years younger than me.
Oh wow.
And when I grew up, I was the god. I could do no wrong. I was wondering, what was it like
I can
for
totally
you?
relate.
For me, I mean, so he's 7 years older. So we really were doing our own things. When we were younger, we were pretty separate. There wasn't a lot of crossover. But when I came down to LA to go to school, started hanging out a little bit more, and then we moved in together, and now we're working together. And I think, I mean, I don't know, from my perspective, it wasn't until even like a handful of years ago that you finally like looked at me not just as little brother, where like maybe started to value my opinions a little bit more. But I don't know. At this point, it's like we really do love a lot of the same things, and so when we work together creatively, we're very in sync. Yeah.
And what it's like, one funny thing I found out on this movie is I always thought of myself as like the older brother that had the weight of the world on his shoulders. I had to kind of lead the way, and you know, I was my parents' first child, and you know, they kind of learned how to raise their kids through me, and by the time they got to Davey, you know, 2 kids later and 7 years later, it seemed like he had it easy, and you know, he was a very happy-go-lucky guy, and where I had a childhood where I, you know, went through a lot of like brooding and stuff like that.
They would give you 1 Oreo for dessert, and I got 4.
So, and so I always thought of myself as like the more serious one. But then when we got to the set of The Disaster Artist, Davey was like so serious, and I really tried to set a very relaxed, fun atmosphere on set. And it wasn't like he was not fun, but he was just very serious and a perfectionist. And it seemed like in some ways we had almost switched roles over the years. I think where I, you know, have a tendency to just forge ahead and do a lot of things, Davey's the opposite, and he's more discerning and thoughtful about, you know, what he does, and I don't know, we just have a really good balance in all areas.
I felt very protective of my brother growing up. Did you do that?
Yeah, I mean, he didn't really need it. I think, I can't think of any. There was no real incident or anything where it was like, I need my big brother.
Right,
you know,
right.
he was. I mean, he was homecoming king. He was like Mr. Popular. He didn't really need. He didn't really need me.
Dave, how do you think your mother would describe James?
Describe him?
Yeah.
It's a tough question. I think, wow. How do I answer that?
I mean, she's the most loving.
I was gonna say, like, through everything, she's incredible. Like, she was so, like, touched and inspired when we were both really acting. Like, after I started acting, he had been acting for a long time. She was so inspired that she went off and she started taking acting classes at Stanford University, which is where in the area that we grew up. And so that says everything right there. She's so supportive, and she I don't know. I'm sure she's you know, has obviously loved you through everything, but I'm sure she loves that that maybe you have slowed down a little bit, and that just in the nature of your schedule opening up a little bit, we've had a little more family time together, and yeah, I don't know, all positive things.
I wanted to know what you would think your mother would have said about Dave as well, or describe it.
They have their own little relationship. It's hard to describe. I mean, Dave was the last of 3 boys. So he had at least 4 or 5 years alone in the house with my parents. So they have their own little jokes and those kinds of things. But my mom is so, you know, she loves her boys so much.
Yeah.
It's hard to.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's sort of just like we kind of can do no wrong
Right,
in a
right,
weird
right,
way.
right.
Yeah.
She was at the premiere. She saw the movie just recently, and I was sitting next to her. And she was making noises that I've never heard her make before because there was like so many emotions going through her seeing both of her sons on screen. And our brother Tom has a very, very tiny role in the movie.
Then the noises just got so.
She was the only one making noises in certain areas when everyone else was like just very intense. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Greg.
I wondered, what are some of your own strangest projects or weirdest auditions you've been on, maybe earlier on in your careers?
Well, in the book, The Disaster Artist, Greg talks about, and this is this is when he wrote it, long before he knew I wanted to do this movie or anything. He mentions me. Greg got cast in this movie called Retro Puppet Master in the late 90s.
Which ironically is maybe even worse than The Room.
Certainly, fewer people have seen
Yeah.
Retro Puppet Master than The Room. In the book, he says, the director told me that a young James Franco had auditioned for this movie. And in fact, there was a sequence in our film that got cut out where we showed the making of Retro Puppet Master, and I had cast the actual director of Retro Puppet Master as himself in our movie, The Disaster Artist. And I asked him, I was like, do you have that? I need to see that audition.
Your audition for him.
Yes,
Yeah.
He didn't have it. I guess he didn't know at the time to save that. But I'm sure that was definitely a horrible audition if I didn't even get Retro Puppet Master.
It was like my third audition ever, and so we do the scene, it goes fine, and then the casting director, she says, all right, can you slate for me real quick? And slate means just to essentially like look at camera and say your name. So at the time, I didn't know the terminology, so I was like, sorry, say it one more time? And she's like, can you slate, just real quick? So what I hear is, can you sleep real quick? So I'm like, all right. So I get comfortable and I put my head back and I start sleeping for her. She's like, no. I was like, what? So that was Allison Jones, who has since cast me in a couple of roles.
She cast Freaks and Geeks as well.
yeah.
She gave me my start.
So she trusts you on auditions now?
I think I just made a pretty strong impression.
Now we are going to recreate a scene from one of my favorite movies, Rebel Without a Cause, starring James Dean and Sal Mineo.
We were coming right back, I told you.
You sure?
Sure, I'm sure. Are you cold? It's warm. Here, my jacket. Hey, not gonna have the gun, Plato?
Somebody's got to say action.
Action.
No, you can't say action.
Why not?
You're not the director. You're an actor.
Okay.
So somebody else has to say
Okay.
action.
Action?
Why did you run out on me?
We didn't run out on you. You were coming right back. I told you.
You sure?
Sure, I'm sure. You cold? Here, take my jacket. Here.
Can I keep it?
What do you think? Here. You gotta sniff it. Like rub it against your face and sniff it.
You want me to rub the jacket against my face?
Yeah, that's what he did.
I'm not gonna rub the jacket against my face.
Just rub the jacket against your
I'm
face
not
and
gonna-
smell it.
Why would I want to smell the jacket and rub it against my face?
Because that's what he did, because he's in love with James Dean.
It's typical, man. You give me the worst characters again, and you get to be James Dean, of course. Of course you get to be James Dean.
Of course I get to be James Dean. Who else is gonna be James Dean?
Let me... You're such a good actor, you can play him, and I'll play James Dean.
You can't play James Dean. I'm James Dean.
I...
Actors sniff jackets.
Okay.
Actors act, actors sniff jackets if they need to sniff jackets. Marlon Brando sniffed jackets.
Okay.
He sniffed pants.
Oh...
He did.
Okay.
You're a rebel without a cause. What's your cause? Not sniffing jackets? Sniff it.
You sniff it.
You sniff it.
No.
Just what I thought.
Okay.
You don't know how to
Any
act.
advice for Britney Spears?
In terms of what?
She just announced yesterday she just filed for divorce.
Oh, I didn't even know that actually. That's bad of me. I'm sorry, but that's none of my business.
Are you surprised?
I really don't care, to be honest.
Awesome, thank you.
Britney Spears is not, I mean, I've met her twice.